Hey friends. So, the past couple of days, I've been reminded of a, not really a principle, but it's kind of a reality, a truth about life that was, I for some reason associate it with Ken Wilber, but I also know that I actually I have an earlier memory of learning this lesson from the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. And basically, I'll kind of describe what it is, and then I can kind of unpack it a little bit. But what has been showing up for me is a recollection of the reality that to exist means to cause suffering in some way. And before you dismiss that statement out of hand, as I might be likely to or have been likely to, before it was laid out for me, let me walk us through the sort of, at least one of the thought exercises that got me there, that gave me an understanding of this. It was actually not the Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh. It was another. It was one of his disciples, one of the other monks at Zen Village, who I was doing some kind of workshop or seminar. I was on a Thich Nhat Hanh retreat, and I was doing a seminar with one of these monks, and he told a story. A woman stood up and said, I see some of the monks wearing leather. I see some of the monks using plastic water bottles. I don't understand how that squares with your message of peace. And the monk responded and said, it was very, very gracious in a way. His response, he said, we do our best to minimize the suffering we inflict. But there's always someone who can find a problem with what we're doing. There's always someone who can find a flaw in our striving to live peacefully. And he said it reminded him of a story of that Thich Nhat Hanh used to tell regularly, where he had a monk meditate on an orange, and the exercise was to meditate on the orange, connect with the orange, really, truly, as deeply as possible, create a sense of being connected, being one with the orange, and then eat the orange. And the disciple came to Thich Nhat Hanh after the exercise and said, I couldn't eat the orange. I feel like the orange is my friend. I can't cut it and eat it. And Thich Nhat Hanh said, it's a hard fact that living means killing. And do is minimize the suffering in itself. And that's where you get his interpretation of Buddhist precepts about being vegetarian, about living nonviolently, about there is no way to peace. Peace is the way. And so what has happened, I was quite young when I received this lesson. I might have been in my teens, but I was certainly not later than my early 20s, 21, 22. And I remember realizing that I was profoundly moved by that lesson. It made sense. It felt intuitively right that living means killing. It also alleviated, because I had, when the woman asked that question of the monk in the seminar I was in, I sort of intuitively knew this question is off topic. Not off topic, it's on topic. It was just, this question comes from a misguided interpretation of what healing peacefully means. And I felt like the monk answered it so beautifully and so deeply. He said, people tell us we're not supposed to wear leather, so wearing leather isn't peaceful. But then so then what? We wear plastic shoes, and they tell us we're destroying the environment. We have to. We have a right to live. We have a right to the bare necessities of life. I mean, a monk, right? So literally, that's all they possess is the bare necessities of life. And tying it to this story about why living means killing felt so powerful. And then at some point I was reading Ken Wilber, and he didn't tell anything like the same kind of story or the same kind of message, but he talked about, in one of his books, probably Sexophaology, Spirituality, which is a big tome, he talks about what it means that our very existence necessarily imposes suffering. And we try to minimize that, but we also have to accept that that's the case. And I have realized in my own life, because there was still a bit of an itch in my system as I took that message to heart, because I thought to myself, well, you can make an argument. I understand the argument that we're supposed to minimize the suffering we impose, but that seems like the kind of imperative that could itself, that in and of itself is difficult to interpret. It requires interpretation. We could get we could tie ourselves up in knots trying to minimize suffering, which is kind of what this woman, I think, was doing when she asked the question at the retreat. And so it never quite fully sat with me what that meant until I had experiences over the years and started to realize as I cause suffering, my job is to see it, to really receive that that has happened, and to accept it. And then I will move from a place of intellectual minimization of suffering, which is not a real thing. It's my mind's attempt to fulfill an edict, minimize suffering. In the best way it knows how, but that ultimately ends up being kind of perfectionistic loop, an unfulfillable perfectionistic loop, which ultimately, because it's unfulfillable, kind of resolves itself into no meaning at all. So whether or not I'm vegetarian, I'm failing. Whether or not I'm vegan, I'm failing. Whether or not I do a lot for the environment or a little for the environment, I'm failing. I'm going to fall short of it. So that's why it's not a good guide, because it sets up something that ultimately turns out to be undoable. It's a pronouncement or a principle that's unsatisfiable. But accepting the suffering we cause is satisfiable. That accept into your heart every bit of suffering that you've caused is probably equally undoable, but it's a task that generates death. It automatically changes my relationship to what I've done, and it automatically gives me a new perspective on what I'm about to do, what I might do tomorrow. And it helps, it is an example or an embodiment of taking Thich Nhat Hanh's lesson to heart. If living means killing, then we have to accept the killing that we do. And what we are willing to accept might be different from what someone else is willing to accept. And that's okay. We have to accept what we've done, not what anybody else might do. And that, for whatever reason, just through, I think, just a variety of I could kind of put together the breadcrumbs of how I got there over the last couple of days, some experiences and some things I've done where I've looked at it and gone, why did I do it that way? And then realized it, maybe realized why, maybe not, but I've been able to survey and see form and evolve and then peace is the way to Nirvana. No, I'm not fulfilling an unfulfillable. I'm not ever striving to fulfill an unfulfillable principle. I'm simply receiving into myself the felt sense of what it means to exist, which involves causing suffering, which involves killing. And I'm in an active relationship to that. And I'm weighing, I'm directly in contact with the way in which my existence, my life, is part of the interplay of life on the planet. And then I can make choices about what do I want to eat, what do I want to wear, where do I want to go, how do I want to travel. And I think I made my point that it's no longer about getting it right in some sort of intellectual abacus of minimization of bad things. It's just living the full truth of who I